Questions for reflection. Today we reflect upon the life and witness of a holy married couple named Joachim and Anne, the parents of the Blessed Virgin Mary and the grandparents of Jesus Christ. We commemorate their faithful marriage and fruitful parenthood on their feast day, July the 26th. They are the patron saints of a happy, faithful, and holy marriage. The parents of the Virgin Mary, the grandparents of Jesus, are known by the names of Joachim and Anne from a tradition dating back to the 2nd century, as noted in the document known as the Proto-Evangelion of St. James. Our first reading from the book of Sirach reminds us that we should call to mind and praise our godly ancestors, and in the church, we do just that. We recall the lives of the saints, the holy ones. We do so because they provide us with models to imitate. There's an ancient story of Joachim and Anne. That story, dating to the first centuries of the church's life, recalls how Saints Anne and Joachim, like Abraham and Sarah, were scorned by their neighbors because they had no children. Years of longing did not weaken their trust in God, but grief eventually drove St. Joachim into the wilderness to fast and pray. St. Anne, remaining at home, dressed in mourning clothes and wept because she had no child of her own. Seeing her mistress distressed, a servant girl reminded Anne to put her trust in God. St. Anne washed her face, put on her bridal clothes, and went to a garden to plead with God for a child. Angels appeared to St. Anne in her garden and to St. Joachim in the desert, promising that despite their old age, they would give birth to a child who would be known throughout the world. The new parents ran to meet one another at Jerusalem's Golden Gate and, with a kiss, rejoiced in the new life which God had promised would be theirs. Saints Anne and Joachim are powerful intercessors for all married couples, expectant mothers, and married couples who are having difficulty conceiving, as well as all who have grown old. This scene is depicted in a beautiful icon, which is revered by Christians around the world and seen as a sacramental sign of the holiness of faithful and fruitful married love. Joachim and Anne are the patron saints of all married couples, parents, and grandparents. Our responsorial psalm also calls us to remember that the Lord remains true to His word. He promised David that he would set a descendant of his upon the throne. And we know that the son of David was in fact the Son of God, the promised Messiah, Jesus Christ. The family history reveals that the Lord worked through generations of people to fulfill that promise. The Virgin of Nazareth had a mom and a dad, Joachim and Anne. We can trust the Lord's promises to us as well. He is always faithful. We need the eyes of living faith to see His hand working in our own lives and in our families. The gospel appointed for this feast of Joachim and Anne is short but important. It's taken from the 13th chapter of the Gospel of St. Matthew. Jesus has just finished giving the parable of the sower to the crowds when the disciples ask why He uses parables in addressing the crowds. He tells the disciples that the crowds did not yet have the eyes of faith to see what He is teaching. So He uses parables. However, He tells the disciples that they do have such faith because they have seen Him and heard Him. So He speaks directly and plainly to them. We are His contemporary disciples. We too have seen the Lord and we hear the Lord. We see Him in the most holy Eucharist, where He makes Himself present as our spiritual food at every holy sacrifice of the Mass. We see Him in those who live their lives for Him and make Him present to us. We hear Him as His holy word is proclaimed and as we read the Scriptures with living faith. We hear Him as He continues to speak to us through His mystical body, the Church, and as we open the ears of our hearts to listen to Him, speaking to us in prayer. Jesus is not dead. He is alive. He is in our midst. Do we see him? Ask him to open your eyes to see him, and open the ears of your heart to hear him, and watch what begins to happen in your life.